You are listening to Fantha tracks.
He's waiting.
Classic Star Wars and the collectibles they gave us. From vintage Star Wars to the modern era of the saga. This is Collecting Tracks. Here are your hosts, Richard Hutchinson and Andy Preston.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Collecting Tracks. I'm Richard Hutchinson.
And I'm Andy Preston.
And we're your hosts for episode 16, The Essential Star Wars Collection. Now Andy, I'm going to be honest with you, I had an amazing title for this that made me chuckle all the way to work one morning and I completely forgot it. So I was very disappointed in myself. I thought, what a cracking title that would have been. So...
Never mind, Rich, you know it'll come back just when you've released the podcast.
Absolutely.
Just a minute too late. Always the way.
So then Andy, what have you been up to since our last show?
I've been busy, Rich. Lots going on at work. Lots going on with the kids. We've had one doing his full GCSEs, another one doing mocks. We've had school shows. We've had performances. We've had all sorts. So very busy time with the family. A couple of nice beach days, and as I like to do, got the figures down there for a bit of beach photography. Han and Chewie and Mando and Grogu. So that was good. But we're just coming into a spell of nice weather, so hoping to kick back a little bit and a bit of barbecue and a bit of sitting out in the sun. That'd be nice.
Absolutely.
What about yourself?
Well, I've been busy as well. So I have been to Star Wars Fan Fun Day, which used to be Burnley, but it's now at Blackburn. And my honest opinion of that show now is, as far as vintage is concerned, it's probably second only to Echo at the moment. There was a wonderful, wonderful selection of vintage there. But what I also like about Star Wars Fan Fun Day is they've got lots for kids as well. So they have props, they have guests for signing, they have fun photo shoots, they have raffles, and they raise a lot of money for charity. It's several thousands of pounds gets donated to some local hospice. So it really is a wonderful, wonderful event.
Yeah, I've only ever heard good things about that show, but it's nice to hear that the traders is coming on, because I'd heard that it was more of a, as you say, more of a family fun day, opportunity to meet guests and do activities and talk to your fellow fans. But if there's traders there as well, then that really looks like it's coming on. Excellent.
Well, when I first went, about 10 years ago now, I would say that there was only a small handful of traders, and most of them were modern. You know, your typical London Film Comic Cons or Liverpool Comic Cons kind of stalls. But certainly the last 2 or 3 times that I've been there, the vintage is increased. And there were probably off the top of my head 1, 2, 3, 4 huge, and I'm not just talking one tables here, I'm talking 3, 4, 5 tables, huge sellers of lots of product, together with others who were selling a mix of loose vintage and modern figures, and others selling, you know, coasters and, you know, artwork and things like that. So yeah, it was really good, and you know, it's a very cheap day and a lot of money raised for charity. And I spent most of the day with our fellow Fantha track guys. So Mark Newbold was there, Paul Naylor was there, and he made quite a bit of money on, what was he selling? He was selling Black Series, I think, and he made quite a bit of money that weekend selling items. And who else was there? Richard Mitchell was there as well, I think. So yeah, 3 of us there, so that was really enjoyable.
Oh, very good. I'm going to have to get myself up there one time. It's a bit like going from one side of the galaxy to the other, coming from the circuit. It does sound like a good do.
And it was even more impressive considering that I think it was Liverpool Comic Con was on at exactly the same day. So there was a number of guys that opted to do Liverpool instead because of some of the guests that was on. So it wasn't too busy, you know, you can walk around quite easily. Nice relaxing day. So well worth it.
Excellent.
Obviously, I spent a lot of time watching Andor, finishing that off, which was obviously a great watch. And then I've just got back from Paris. So I've been away to Paris for a weekend with my wife for it being her birthday. Did the usual stuff, you know, Eiffel Tower and Notre Dame and the boat ride on the Seine. But as ever, you're walking past shops going, Meccano, any Meccano? So, yeah.
No such luck. Well, I'm glad you didn't fall off the boat, because then you really would have been insane.
Oh, absolutely, I would have been insane. I think I am anyway. Right, okay. Well, actually, speaking of insane, so this show then. So, Annie, I must have explained this to you, I don't know, 7 times. And when I first touted it to Mark at Fantha Tracks, he went, "Oh, what a great idea. That's going to be a great show." And I was really super excited for it. I thought, Annie's going to seize this and he's going to really run with it. And then I think I had to explain it to you 4 or 5 times. Then I thought, oh, he's got it now. And then, was it just yesterday you messaged again and said, I'm still completely clueless?
Yeah, and I'm still not quite sure, but I've got a little list. So we'll make it up as we go, Rich. If my list doesn't quite dovetail with what you're thinking, but yeah, let's dive in and see how we get on, shall we?
Yeah. So I thought what it would be good is to think about somebody coming in to collect Star Wars figures. Now, whether that be somebody who's, young, a 12-year-old or a 21-year-old, or perhaps somebody who was interested in getting back into vintage and thinking, right, well, I've got no chance of purchasing everything because those days are gone now and you're going to have to be more selective. So I said to Andy, I says, right, thinking of action figure related items, what are the essential items that you need in your collection to say, I have my Star Wars collection completed. Now, by Star Wars, I'm referring to A New Hope. So if this works well, we may do Empire, we may do Jedi another time. But this was just Star Wars, A New Hope, action figure related, which could include vehicles and play sets. But I'm sure you messaged me yesterday. Did you say it include leper set or something like that? Or am I making that up?
Yeah, no, I was asking whether non-toy stuff would be in here, and I might throw a couple of non-toy things into the mix.
Okay,
stuff that I consider essential. But
yes, really essential. So I've got my list, you've got your list, and I've put mine in order. And basically what I wanted was just to decide whether both agreed or whether some of our ideas are ridiculous or which ones are we missing. And I'd like to hear from listeners to think, oh, God, how could you have not included figure X or whatever? So who wants to go first, Andy?
I don't mind kicking off.
Okay, go on. What is your number one essential?
Number one essential, Luke Skywalker. The action figure, the very first Luke Skywalker, what a lot of people now call the farm boy. Luke is the hero. I know as the saga went on, a lot of folks have expressed a preference for Han Solo or Princess Leia or some of the other characters. But I think in Star Wars, it was really Luke's journey. It was his story, his adventure. I think the novelization was titled or subtitled From the Adventures of Luke Skywalker. And I think that action figure, possibly more than any other, really is the one to have out of the whole lot, I would say. He's authentically sculpted. He looks like the movie character. He's got that really innovative extending telescoping lightsaber. If you want to talk variants, you can go for the double telescoping lightsaber. There's yellow hair, brown hair, orange hair, green hair. I haven't seen a blue hair one, but there must be one out there. So that's number one on my list, Luke Skywalker, the action figure.
I completely agree with that. That was number one on my list as well. I think if we all had to take or had to put one item in a museum to remember Kenner Star Wars action figures, it would be the Luke Skywalker, without a doubt. I totally agree with that one. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that.
Hello there, you beautiful people. This is Steve Evans, Senior Design Director for Star Wars at Hasbro, and you are listening to, you guessed it, Fantha Tracks.
All right, number two. So number two on my list was, if you're going with the hero, you've got to have the villain. So I went with Darth Vader as number two, and again, Darth Vader is instantly recognizable. My wife has never seen a Star Wars movie, has seen maybe 20 seconds of one of the Mandalorian episodes and brief snippets of Andor as she's basically walked through reading a book or something. So Darth Vader, again, an iconic figure. Show how good the figure was. It didn't get a resculpt or any kind of version differences in the original line, all the way through to, to the Jedi, where they could have came with a removable mask, or they could have, put some sculpt differences in there. Again, you've got your lightsaber, this time with a correct colour, which obviously Luke Skywalker didn't come with. A wonderful cape addition to it, where Darth Vader's cape is absolutely magnificent. So I think Darth Vader is a very, very worthy number two and is definitely needed in everybody's essential collection.
Can't agree more, Rich. And I think one of us must have been looking over the other one's shoulder, because I have got Darth Vader at my second choice as well. So, interesting the way this is going. Right, third choice for me, and branching away from the action figures now, third choice is the Palitoy Death Star playset. My favourite piece in the whole action figure line. Now, this is such a wonderfully designed toy. From the shape of it, looks like the hemisphere of the Death Star, to the graphics, those lovely pictured stormtroopers and Death Squad commanders and control panels and all sorts. It's got the gunner's seat on the top, so you can shoot off incoming X-Wing fighters. And it's designed so that you can pretty much play through the whole movie, or the whole movie that takes part in the Death Star anyway. It's got the hangar bay, it's got the prison cell, it's got that hexagonal shaped corridor that leads to the shoot down into the trash compactor. You've got the catwalk for Ben Kenobi to itch his way across and turn off the tractor beam. It is all in there. Such a wonderful playset. I had hours and hours and hours of fun with mine back in the day. And I think if you're going to have anything to stand your figures up in, then it has to be that Death Star playset. Kenner one has got its place. The Kenner has got certainly some features that the Palitoy doesn't. But genuinely, even if I wasn't a British Focus collector, I think I'd still be saying the Palitoy one is the clear winner. So that's my third choice, Rich.
I didn't even have it on my list, Andy. The reason being is that I'm not going to dispute the fact that it's very cool and there's lots of features on it, but we were kids with imaginations. And I was never going to be given a Palitoy Death Star playset as a child. Just couldn't afford it. So what would we have done as kids? We made our own. Whether it was using a duvet, whether it was, using dirt outside in the garden and boxes and things like that. So for that reason, and you can probably guess now, I've ruled out every single playset from my entire Essential collection.
Interesting. And this is perhaps where I was just struggling a little bit to understand where you were going with this. Because you were talking about the Essential collectibles, as opposed to what you might have had as a kid. So
no, I'm talking about the essential. Yeah, what is actually essential? What would you advise somebody? What is essential? What do you need to have? And I don't think playsets make the list.
Oh, I don't know. I hear what you say. I agree that you could make your own with bits of cardboard and rubbish, but I think it is such a well-designed playset that I'd like to have it in my list anyway.
So, my number 3 then. So what I did was I thought, right, you've got Luke, you've got Darth Vader, you're going to get bored very quickly if you were just, having duels and battles. So what next do you need? And quite surprisingly, because I wouldn't have put this on the list if you had asked me without much thought, was Princess Leia. And the reason why I put Leia third on the list is because you needed a quest, you needed an objective, you needed something for Luke to go and find, some kind of quest, and Darth Vader was going to stop Luke, and the ultimate quest was to get Leia out of the detention block. Princess Leia for me was number 3. I think it absolutely is an essential figure, and even though it was a female character back then, nobody to the best of my knowledge went, oh, you're getting a Princess Leia, those are girls' toys surely. Nope, Princess Leia absolutely shattered that and broke all the molds.
Yes, absolutely a must-have figure, as you say, one that we all had in our collections back in the day, and again a really good figure, good representation. That blaster that she's got, which at the time was unique to that figure. So, that's a worthy one to have in the list. My number 4, now I've again gone away from the action figures. I mean, still within the action figure line, but I didn't want to have a list full of just figures, because you could have had all 12 of all 20 of the first released figures. But my number 4 gives them something to fly. My number 4, Rich, is the Kenner X-Wing fighter. Now, you cannot have a much more iconic ship from Star Wars than the X-Wing fighter. It's got that X-shaped silhouette. It's a really cool-looking plane. You've got the guns on the wings, 4 quad lasers firing together. You've got a cockpit that you can put Luke into. You've got R2 in the back. Okay, he doesn't come out, but you pop him down to get the wings out. And that opening and closing wing feature, absolutely wonderful. The Kenner one, and with gritted teeth, yes, the Kenner I've chosen above Palitoy because you've got the electronics, you've got the light and sound, you've got a landing skid so it can pull up in the Rebel hangar. That X-Wing, just a wonderful toy. Again, I've got such great memories flying that round and round the house. That's my number 4, Rich, and I'm betting that one is on your list.
It is. It's my number 7. Now, what I'm also going to say, and this might be a bit controversial for you, Andy, because of the R2-D2 feature at the back, I actually don't have R2-D2 on my list at all. And the reason being is because at the end of the day, what, other than clicking its head, what did you want R2-D2 to do? Help fly the X-Wing. So therefore, I thought that covers both bases. I've ruled out R2-D2 as being an important enough figure to be in the Essential Collection because it's part of the X-Wing, and that's where most of us would have used our R2.
Ooh, controversial.
Controversial.
Yeah.
All right, my number 4 then. So I went with an alien this time because I thought we've got the good guy, we've got the bad guy, we've got the quest. It's now time to start heading in other directions. And I went with Chewbacca as number 4 because everybody on the planet had Chewbacca. Absolutely everybody. It was, the big foot, the scary teeth, the big bowcaster, the unusual walking carpet Wookiee. So I put Chewbacca up as that high as number 4.
Well, Chewbacca again, an iconic character, and Chewie and the droids and Vader, the masked characters, they were really promoted by Kenner and a lot of the other licensees as being the faces of the movie, even above the likes of Luke and Han and Leia. So, you had your Chewie mask. Yeah, such an iconic character, such a part of Star Wars, so readily recognisable. Can't argue with that one, Rich. Number 5. My number 5, you can probably see this one coming. You've got your X-Wing fighter. You've got to have something for that to go up against. So number 5 is the white TIE fighter. Not the Vader's TIE fighter, but the white TIE fighter. Now, I know Kenner came out later on with a blue version, and then you had the TIE Interceptor and so on in grey. But I always thought the TIE fighters in Star Wars looked white to me, so this was just absolutely perfect. Again, you've got the light and sound. You've got that battle damage feature with the wings popping off. You've got the opening cockpit, and you can raise that seat to put your figure in. Darth can fly it, no problem there. Don't think we need a Stormtrooper, and I've not got a Stormtrooper figure on my list. You can very easily pretend that it's Darth Vader's TIE fighter just as much as a regular TIE fighter. So that's my number 5, the TIE fighter to fight the X-Wing.
Well, no surprise, I've got the exact same vehicle, but I would move it down to number 8. So I've also got the TIE fighter on there, and I agreed. I thought, Darth Vader can fly this, Stormtroopers can fly it. So yeah, I was happy with that one. My number 5 is a ship, but also it is far bigger than that. It's almost a playset itself. So I went with the Millennium Falcon for number 5 because I thought, okay, I've got Luke, I've got Leia, I've got Chewbacca who can fly the Falcon. I've still got Darth Vader as a lonely little character by itself, but I thought the Millennium Falcon is so iconic. Yeah, you've got your ramp, you've got your cockpit, you've got your training ball, you've got your chess table, you've got seats, you've got compartments, you've got so much fun in there. And I would really struggle to think of a child being able to recreate a Millennium Falcon out of cardboard and things, whereas other playsets would have been far easier. So I think everybody needed a Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, one of the biggest and best ships in the line. You might put the shuttle and the AT-AT up against it, but otherwise the Falcon's king. Superb ship. Again, not on my list, Rich, and I'll explain why a little bit later on. But arguably it should be there. So, happy with that. Number 6 for me, another vehicle. We're really on a vehicle streak at the moment, aren't we? Number 6 for me was the Kenner Landspeeder. Another of the iconic Star Wars vehicles. You cannot have a Star Wars collection without a Landspeeder of some sort. It's Luke's runaround. It's the vehicle in which he goes off looking for R2-D2. They find Ben Kenobi. Kenobi takes them into Mos Eisley, and they sell the land speeder to pay for their passage on the Millennium Falcon. It's a superb toy. It's got that wonderful floating action. I thought that was brilliant as a kid because you really don't see those little wheels underneath. It's got the opening bonnet the Kenner one has. It's got the 2 seats for action figures. And again, really clever feature that I loved. Those foot pegs on the backs of the seats so you can have the droids sitting on the back. Perfect. Who wouldn't want the land speeder, Rich?
Well, me for a start, because I actually didn't think it was important enough to be in the list. And the reason being is because nothing happens in the land speeder. Luke moves from A to B and B to C and C to D, but there's no land speeder action, there's no chases, there's no crashes. So I thought, you know what, anything that Luke needed to do, he could have done in the X-Wing. I thought, no land speeder for me, certainly doesn't make my list at all.
Oh, disappointed with that. No, I mean, it's a ground vehicle. It's the only ground vehicle that you get, not counting the Imperial troop transport, which was never in the movie anyway. Yeah, you need a ground vehicle. You need something on wheels. You need the toy car.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
Well, my number 6 was the Stormtrooper, and I know you said you didn't have it on your list, but I think Stormtroopers were the original army builders, and I was never going to be given more than one Stormtrooper, but you know, I'm aware of people who've traded for, you know, I swapped this Boeing a Lobot for another Stormtrooper, and I think I would have loved to have had 2 or 3 Stormtroopers in my set. But I think certainly with Darth Vader feeling ganged up on by Luke Skywalker, Leia, Chewbacca, the Millennium Falcon, and the X-Wing, I think Vader needs an ally. So the Stormtrooper was number 6 for me.
Yeah, no, didn't make my list. I did have the Palatoy Death Star, and that's got plenty of representations of Stormtroopers in the graphics, so I was happy with that. Yeah, iconic character, but you can't have them all, can you? So Stormtrooper did not make my list, I'm afraid. What did make my list, and now I am going a little bit off beam, but hear me out. Number 7 on my list is the Force Beam, the lightsaber. Not one for the action figures, not even a Kenner product. Kenner did do a lightsaber toy, but it was that torch handset with an inflatable blade. Never very good, never realistic. So company came in and produced this thing, the Force Beam. It had, again, the torch handle, came in red or green. You had a solid plastic tube. And what kid would not have wanted one of them to pretend that they're a Jedi Knight and bash their brother or sister around the head with? That is one of the most iconic toys that you can get from Star Wars, and that's got to be on any list, surely.
Well, again, I considered that one, Andy, but then I ruled it out. And the reason being is because we had other things like broomsticks or cardboard tubes. At Christmas time, when you got wrapping paper in the tubes, when it was at the end of the roll, you would just use a bit of that to whack each other with. So I ruled it out for that reason.
Yeah, and I still do that when you get to the end of the roll of wrapping paper. but it didn't light up.
No.
You couldn't turn the light out and have a proper light up lightsaber. So that definitely makes my list. That is the iconic weapon from Star Wars. Number 8. Now again, going away from the action figure line, number 8, I have the die-cast Star Destroyer. That's the one die-cast that I've got. And the reason I've got that one is because the Star Destroyer is not represented in the Star Wars line otherwise. And also, you get your little blockade runner with it. You can have your blockade runner being chased down by the Star Destroyer. The Star Destroyer passes overhead. Its belly hatch opens up and it swallows the blockade runner. Princess Leia's captured. Droids get away in the escape pod. But if you're going for the essential Star Wars, who can forget that opening scene with the Star Destroyer coming in over your head, engines blaring, such a monumental opening to a movie. And I thought, with that and the action and everything else, you've got to have a Star Destroyer of some sort. So the diecast is my number 8.
I did consider that a lot, and I had to think about it. And I think, in hindsight, with your argument, it probably should have been on the list. I would accept that one as an omission. Yes, I think the Death Star chasing the Tantive 4 was absolutely a good shout. And I wouldn't be against that one. So my number 8 on the list, because obviously 7 was my X-Wing, was the Luke X-Wing pilot. And the reason why I put Luke in twice is because I thought you've got Luke who can be on the Falcon, who can be sitting around playing chess with Chewbacca or hiding himself in the smuggler's compartment. And then I've got Luke also as an X-Wing pilot flying the X-Wing, but it also has the added bonus that it could be Wedge, it could be Porkins, it could be any of the others, Biggs, for example, who didn't survive the Death Star run. So I thought the Luke X-Wing pilot as a multi-action figure is an absolute essential.
Hear what you say, Rich, but I'm going to have to disagree with that. I don't think you need 2 Lukes in the essential collection. The X-Wing came out as a toy in 1978 alongside the first 12 action figures. Luke X-Wing pilot didn't come out until the next year. So for a whole year, we had to have Luke Farmboy flying the X-Wing. He's the one that's pictured on the box. And for me, Luke Farmboy can fly the X-Wing just as well as Luke X-Wing pilot can. So no, I don't think you need 2 Lukes in your list, and I'm gonna veto that one personally. Next on my list is another off-the-wall choice. Again, going away from the toy line. Don't worry, I'm coming back to the toys in a minute. But number 9, I have got the Star Wars novelization by George Lucas. Actually, it wasn't by George Lucas, it was by Alan Dean Foster, who also went on to write Splinter of the Mind's Eye. But that novelization, with its, was it 16 pages of colour photographs stuck in the middle? I read that and read it over and over and over and over as a kid. We didn't have, in those days, videos, DVD players, Disney Plus. We didn't have any way of reliving the movie in our own homes. We had to play with the toys, but the closest we could get was the novelization running through the whole movie and also including those deleted scenes. Luke and Biggs on Tatooine. Biggs at the end with Luke and talking about Luke's father. There was a lot of detail in there that was not actually in the movie. And as a kid, I thought that was wonderful. It was world building. It was opening up that universe even more. So I am going to call that an essential Star Wars collectible, the novelization of the first movie.
I mean, you're absolutely right. It is a wonderful, wonderful item, but it doesn't fit with the action figure theme, so I think I'm going to veto that one. My next one was the Rebel Fleet Trooper. Now, obviously, we all know that it wasn't available in the vintage collection, and it's probably the one that is the glaring request of what we would have liked to have had. And Hasbro has released some wonderful sculpts and some wonderful versions of it, and they absolutely got it nailed on with the retro collection with the Rebel Fleet Trooper that they've recently released. And I think that one also has a part to play and deserves very, very worthily to be in the Essential Collection.
Can't agree with you more, Rich, in terms of that it should have been back in the day, either one of the first 20 figures or at the very least in the last 17 line. But essential vintage collectible, I mean, I'm going to get it. I'm going to probably buy 3 or 4 of them, but does it make a vintage collection list? I'm not so sure. You can't get much more modern than a toy that's literally just been released this month. So
where are you getting vintage from? When did we mention the vintage? It's the Essential Star Wars collection. Action figure related. I can see how you're having difficulty with this now.
Oh dear. I'm sure we were talking vintage, but anyway, not on my list, Rich. Not on my list. Next one on my list at number 10 is the Palitoy. Back to Palitoy again. Special offer Cantina. Now, this is a little bit of a cheat, but I'm going to have it in there. The Cantina, again, such a wonderful scene. We'd never had anything like that before, had we? That menagerie of creatures, all those strange noises and strange faces, and the action, the threat that was coming from all corners. Just a wonderful, wonderful scene. It was over very quickly, but that, if anything, probably the scene that stuck with so many of us from seeing the movie the first time. And the Palitoy Special Offer Cantina gives you not only the play set with the bar and the little table booth and the areas where you can stand your figures up, but you also get your 4 figures. You get your Hammerhead, your Walrus Man, your Greedo, your Snaggletooth. And you get a couple of stands with it, and you get your fighting stand. So you can put your Luke Skywalker figure on one end of the fighting stand. You can put your Greedo or your Walrus Man on the other end. Move the little action levers, and they can have it out. So Palitoy Special Offer Cantina, I think, gives you everything you need for that magic cantina memory. My number 9, Rich.
Well, again, I'm going to rule that one out, and the reason being is because what do you do with it? So in the movie, you've got, the band that's playing, you've got Walrus Man, you've got Dr. Everson, you've got Luke, and that interaction with Ben Kenobi. But other than that, everyone's just sitting around doing nothing. So therefore, I thought, we don't need a cantina, and I didn't have one as a kid either. And it's something that I probably could have easily knocked together with cardboard and crayons and things. However, I did agree with you in one of the aliens. And I thought, we've got Chewbacca. We really need another representation of aliens, something all-inclusive. It's all about all-inclusivity today. And the one that I went with was Greedo, because I think, I thought, Snaggletooth is probably the weakest of the aliens. Literally does nothing in A New Hope, so we could live without Greedo. Hammerhead just sits in the corner and turns. I thought, right, we can do away with that one. Walrus Man, yes, he has an interaction with Luke, and I suppose you could have him arguing with Luke, but Greedo has the most action. Greedo has the most vivid colours. Greedo is the most unusual out of the creatures, and I thought, out of all of them, he deserves his place on my list.
Yeah, if you're going to pick one of the cantina creatures, it's got to be Greedo, hasn't it? Just for that shootout with Han Solo. But Greedo on his own, when you could have the cantina playset and the other creatures, no competition. Also, just to come back on you about the cantina being a lot of people sitting around doing nothing, that's where imagination comes into play, Rich. These characters, these toys, they didn't just recreate the scenes from the movie. They had all sorts of other adventures in our minds. They had battles, they had scheming, they had heists, they had fights. You could do anything with your group of figures, and we all did. And to have a cantina where they could all go and have a bit of a bar fight and a drink up, I think that's pretty essential in my book. Next on my list, I've got another Palitoy. Palitoy Land of the Jawas playset. And again, a bit of a cheat because, yes, you get the free Jawa figure. Land of the Jawas playset, you've got the Sandcrawler backdrop, you've got the big expanse of desert base, and if you're going to have Tatooine, then a big expanse of sand, that is what you need. You can have space for your land speeder to sit, you can have your Jawas, you can have, well, neither of us have got R2-D2 on our list, have we? But if you did, or if you made your own R2-D2, you can trundle across the sands. You can probably make your own Luke Homestead to go on your sand base. So that's my number. I think I've totally lost track of what number we're on, but I think that's my number 11, Rich. The Land of the Jawas playset with the free Jawa.
Well, again, I ruled that one out because we had a sand pit, or you had a bit of earth that you could just dig back home. And I thought the Jawa wasn't really an essential figure, so I ruled that one out completely.
Hi, this is Brian Hickey, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
The last item on my list is C3PO. And I thought, you're going to have to include a droid. And the two most obvious droids are C3PO and R2-D2, but I decided not to have R2-D2 because I've already got him on the back of the X-Wing. And where else are you going to use R2-D2 but on that X-Wing? So therefore, C3PO, who certainly could be very useful flying in the Millennium Falcon, translating languages between Greedo and Chewbacca and Luke. So that's the last. I don't have any more items because that is the essential, definitive Star Wars collection.
Well, I think between us, we've not come up with a bad bunch there. Some where we'll have to agree to disagree. But if you had all of those, you've got a pretty good rundown of what makes Star Wars so special. And what kid would not have been happy with that little bunch to play with?
Is that the end of your list too?
I think it is. Well, I went first, didn't I? So, yeah.
Well, notable exceptions, what people are going to say is, why no Han Solo?
Because if we're limiting to, what have we got? A list of about 10 items.
Yeah.
We've got a hero figure in Luke. You've got 2 hero Lukes. So is there space for another hero, another male hero in there? Arguably
Completely agree.
Be, but
completely agree. That's why I ruled Han Solo out. I thought we've already got enough hero figures. We've got, Luke who can blast. We've got Luke who can fly the X-Wing. We've got Chewbacca who can fly the Falcon. I thought, Han Solo, it might be controversial, but I wouldn't put him in the essential collection.
Yeah. I would be inclined, I didn't have him in my list, but I think I would be inclined to look at R2. I hear what you say about him being in the X-Wing, but R2 is a hero character, and no doubt he's the one who Leia entrusts the plans to. He brings the message to Luke. It's R2 who initiates the meeting up with Ben Kenobi. He saves the day on the Death Star. He saves the day on the Falcon. He rides with Luke in the X-Wing. R2 probably has a bigger role to play than C-3PO or Chewie in the movie. So perhaps R2 ought to be on the list somewhere. Don't know.
And we've also ruled out R5D4. We've ruled out the Power Droid. We've ruled out the Death Star Droid. I don't know about you, but with the Death Star Droid, it took me a long time to actually figure out where he was in the movie.
Yeah, well, that Death Star Droid, of course, isn't on the Death Star at all. That one's in the Sandcrawler.
Mm-hmm.
Although there is a black painted one.
Yes.
In the Death Star.
And we ruled out the Tusken Raider, and we ruled out Ben Kenobi.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I did wonder about Ben because, again, we've got Luke, we've got Darth, but they never come face to face in the movie, do they? The battle with the lightsabers, which again is one of the elements everybody remembers. That's Ben and Vader. Should he be in there? Perhaps he should.
And we ruled out the Death Squad Commander, which I think is a fairly obvious one to rule out.
Yep.
And I think that's all the action figures covered off the top of my head. We ruled out Darth Vader's tie because that really wasn't something that's essential. We've ruled out the Dewback.
We have ruled out, if you're talking modern, which you were a little while back, we've ruled out the Bantha. I do love a Bantha figure. Got the Hasbro one, but that one doesn't make the list. We've ruled out the Sandcrawler. Fantastic vehicle.
Yes.
But is it essential? No, especially not if you've got my Land of the Jawas playset.
So there you have it then, guys. Our essential guide to Star Wars collecting. Nobody mentioned vintage. Joe, just ignore Andy when he said that it was a vintage list. It certainly wasn't. We could put it whatever we wanted in there. So are you happy with that, Andy? Would you put your reputation on that to say that if you had to advise Kenner to re-release certain number of items, those would be the ones that we are absolutely desperately want?
I don't think you'd be too far wrong there.
Well, Andy, I hope our listeners are going to certainly give us some feedback, and I'm sure we're going to have the Han Solo, collectors saying, what on earth are you guys talking about? And, other folks, collectors, aren't going to be too happy. And, you're right, Andy, you're going to have people saying, I'm completely wrong about play sets, and equally you're going to have others agree with us and say play sets were, luxuries more than essentials. But it's all part of the fun, Andy, and I'm looking forward to getting feedback.
Absolutely. And although you said it was not a vintage list, I think almost all of the items that we've talked about were vintage.
They were.
So let's hear from the modern collectors as well. What from the modern lines is an essential part of the collectible? What must you have in your collection that wasn't around in the vintage period? Let's hear from you.
And Annie, I think it was a bit of fun, that. So we'll do Empire, maybe not the next show, but we'll do Empire the show after that, or the one after that, indeed. And now that you understand what it was actually about, we might have a bit more of an interesting debate.
Sounds good.
Well, Andy, been a great show. So without much more, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. May the force be with you.
So thanks for listening to Collecting Tracks. If you want to be part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fanthatracks.com or check out the free Fantha Tracks app through the App Store to follow us on your mobile device. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fantha Tracks intro, Andy Lythe for our Collecting Tracks open music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember to tune in to Good Morning Tatooine, live Sunday evenings at 9 PM UK time, 4 PM Eastern and 1 PM Pacific on Facebook and YouTube. Check out Fantha Tracks Radio Friday evenings at 7 PM UK time for new episodes of the Fantha from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collecting Tracks and Cannon Fodder, and every Tuesday at 7 PM UK time for your weekly episode of Making Tracks.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.